A lot of you have been wearing Glorious Geek on your sleeve by using our Instagram filter and tagging us in your stories. If you haven't done it already, it's so cool. It's Oh My World's Magic 8-Ball and it tells you the news in store for you that day. And it's pretty crazy how accurate it is. One person even called it sorcery. Let's just say I can't share the secret sauce. Go use it, share it, tag us, become a true Glorious Geek. All right, we got a lot to cover, but before we start, please hit that subscribe button below and like this video. A lot of news happened last Friday, which when you tape a show on Thursday is always fun. Last week, President Biden struck 2 sites in Syria where the terrorist group Kata'ib Hezbollah is based. Biden made this move 10 days after these militants attacked coalition forces in Iraq, which killed a US contractor and injured other Americans. I love me a president who moves swiftly. Listen, I supported it when Trump pursued airstrikes against this terrorist group, and I think it's great that Biden did it too, because we need to continue communicating to these criminals that the US will not stand for threatening or killing our people abroad. Of course, the move was not without its criticism. Some members of Congress said that the White House should have asked for authorization before pursuing airstrikes, which in my opinion doesn't make sense because the commander-in-chief has the authority to use military assets to protect US national security. Hey, Congress. This is the 5th president in a row to order strikes in the Middle East, so maybe it's time for a new argument. Now, clearly, Biden's message worked, since militants again this week struck an airbase in Iraq, and an American contractor there died because of a heart attack he had during the attack. So we're in a tit for tat with these guys, which brings me to Iran's role, since these are terrorists backed by Iran. The US and Iran have been doing a very awkward diplomatic dance before starting negotiations. A couple weeks ago, Biden's team offered to formally start talks, but the Iranians have publicly rejected the offer until sanctions are lifted. And they're likely to continue behaving badly through these terrorist proxies until they get their way. The Iranian government has also unjustly imprisoned a US-Iranian dual national named Emad Shargi, which they probably did to give themselves a bargaining chip, since the Iranian government always takes dual nationals as hostages to use them as leverage to achieve foreign policy goals. So can I tell the administration something as someone of Lebanese descent, since the Lebanese are master negotiators? Seriously, don't negotiate with a Lebanese person. You will lose. The best is when the Lebanese negotiate with each other. It's a painful process. It's like when they argue over who's gonna pay for dinner. Habibi, I'm paying for this one. No, Habibi, ما بيصير. No, I got this one. No, ya Habibi, this one's on me. خلاص, ya Habibi, you're on my turf. It's already done. What? What do you mean it's done? Ya akhul. You get the next one. طيب هلا بفرجيك. Meet me outside. Okay, enough. Back to Iran negotiations and my message to the administration. Don't make the next move. Let the Iranian government stew in its juices a little bit. Let the sanctions hurt a bit more, for a bit longer, until finally the Iranian government can get off its high horse and come to us. Otherwise, we lose all power in the game. I'm Hagar Shimali, and this is my masterclass. I asked the geeks if you thought Iranian negotiations were going to happen, and 80% of you said yes. Listen, the Iranian government is going to continue behaving badly as a means of gaining the upper hand. So the US administration should both continue responding harshly to any forms of aggression while letting the Iranians know that when they want to put their big boy panties on and talk, the door is open. The Biden administration last week released an intelligence report that finally confirmed what we knew all along, that the Saudi Crown Prince authorized the brutal murder of Saudi journalist and Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. If you all remember, in 2018, Khashoggi was murdered and dismembered after being lured into the Saudi consulate in Turkey. Now, the Crown Prince did it because he finds anyone who criticizes him or the Saudi kingdom as a threat. So the Biden team announced travel bans on 76 Saudi officials tied to this murder and other human rights abuses. But he didn't impose sanctions on the Crown Prince, which many have said goes back on Biden's campaign promise to punish him and make Saudi Arabia the pariah that they are. I don't know if I would go that far, since Biden has been working to recalibrate the relationship by halting most arms sales to Saudi Arabia, and then by publicly embarrassing the Crown Prince, since Biden won't talk to him. But still, the guy is a murderer, so maybe sanctions wouldn't be so outrageous. I asked the Glorious Geeks what you all thought, and 94% of you thought he should have been sanctioned. The Biden team said it's complicated. Ugh, I hate that response. All national security is complicated. So before I get into why Biden may not have made this move, you actually have a kind of similar situation going on with Russia. As you all remember, President Putin poisoned key opposition leader Alexei Navalny. So Biden this week announced sanctions against the people directly involved in that operation. And again, people are wondering if the actions are strong enough, since the individuals targeted are not close to President Putin or his circle. The reason I want to talk about these situations is that you have two very similar leaders and two very similar reactions from the Biden team. Both leaders are insecure assholes. Both are threatened by dissidents whom they try to kill. Both are thugs the United States may need to work with. Both need to be punished, so the US is trying to figure out the best way to change their behavior. I can tell you, having once been a Treasury bad cop, that it's actually very rare to sanction leaders of countries, and the US doesn't really do it until they've decided that it's not an individual they're ever going to work with. So that's why the Syrian president is sanctioned, it's why the Venezuelan president is sanctioned. So what Biden is saying here with the Saudi crown prince and the Russian president is, okay, listen, I don't like you, I think you're a criminal, but I still gotta deal with you, so I'm gonna embarrass you and you better change. But unfortunately, that's just not how dictators function, and it's not really holding them accountable. They're not like the good eldest child who changes behavior because they wanna please mommy and daddy. They're like the terrorist toddler, my boys, who will try to get away with as much as they can until they cross a red line. So by not pursuing tougher sanctions, these leaders here, okay, I got away with that. I can still behave badly. When it comes to Saudi Arabia, the US isn't gonna really change the crown prince's behavior, but sanctioning him could end up forcing the king of Saudi Arabia to eventually pick a different crown prince. There have been a number of different crown princes before this one, so it wouldn't be weird for the king to appoint someone else if he saw that no one wanted to deal with his murderous little shit. I mean, son, if we really want to target human rights abuse and stop these dictators from behaving this way, then we can't be afraid to flex our financial muscles. Armed Nigerian militants last week kidnapped over 300 schoolgirls from a government school. Over 100 gunmen stormed into the school at 1 a.m. and marched the girls out. Thankfully, they just released the girls, but this practice in Nigeria is unfortunately becoming all too common. Why the faux-po is this a thing? A few weeks ago, Nigerian gangs kidnapped another group of students, and in December, more than 300 schoolboys were also taken and then later released. And how could we forget what happened in 2014, when the terrorist group in Nigeria, Boko Haram, abducted nearly 300 schoolgirls? The world was outraged, and people took to social media with the hashtag #BringOurGirlsBack. Some of the girls were released, but 173 of them are still missing. Unfortunately, that media outrage may have contributed to this horrific practice. The main reason these assholes are doing this is because it's become a lucrative business. These thugs know that if they kidnap school children, the horror of it will receive a lot of public attention, which then increases the pressure on the Nigerian government or others to pay ransoms. The government says they don't pay these criminals, but numerous witnesses say that's not true. And what's worse is that some say that Nigerian officials involved in securing the release of these children get a cut. So by paying the ransoms and fueling corruption, the Nigerian government only aids and abets kidnapping for ransom. The obvious and immediate thing the government has to do to combat this growing trend is provide adequate security to school children. If they have money to pay criminals, then they have the money to pay for security. I'm glad these girls were released, but if the government doesn't shape up soon, this activity will only increase further. In the meantime, these Nigerian militants are on my shit list this week. I love me a successful celebrity who chooses to pay it forward. In honor of International Women's Day, which is on March 8th, I want to talk about the amazing work that Rihanna and her foundation are doing. Rihanna founded the Clara Lionel Foundation in 2010, which is named in honor of her grandparents and which works to improve the quality of life for young people around the world by providing education and emergency response. 263 million young people around the world are not in school. So the foundation has done things like set up education programs in Africa and the Caribbean to provide access to affordable, quality education. And 175 million children and young people are negatively affected by natural disasters each year. So they try to reduce the impact of these disasters and take care of the world's most vulnerable. One of the cool things they're doing is trying to turn the Caribbean into the world's first climate resilient zone by donating to organizations that provide relief, food, technology, and healthcare, especially to women and girls who often suffer disproportionately during natural disasters. They've also done a lot of work here in the US, and during this pandemic, they've donated to food banks, they've sought to address the surge in domestic violence, and they've donated to support marginalized communities and to organizations providing mental health support. These guys are just crushing it, and they're doing it with an amazing woman leader at the helm. Thanks, geeks! It's always fun. Let me know if you liked my reenactment of Lebanese people. Please hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments if you have a question or if there's a story you want to hear more about. And don't forget, please, to use our Instagram filter and tag us. And please follow Oh My World and Me on Instagram and Twitter. Stay fabulous, geeks.